Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning for our first and hopefully not the last workshop for partners and spouses of our faculty, for you, on finding an administrative job at Harvard. My name is Elizabeth Ann Corona. I'm the Assistant Provost for Faculty Development and Diversity. And my office, along with Jennifer Ivor's office and Laura Fisher's office in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and with the HR recruitment team, are joining together to host this workshop for you today. So just a couple of housekeeping items so that you know. We've got breakfast here, help yourself at any time. The restrooms are down the hall. You just go around the corner and you'll see signs for the ladies' room and the men's room. And the agenda for today is we're going to start with some expert HR recruiters that are going to give helpful hints and advice and tips on finding an administrative job at Harvard. Then we'll have a break. We'll also have time for discussion and questions and answers. And after the break, we're going to have a panel of three dual career partners or spouses of our faculty who were successful in finding administrative positions at Harvard after coming here. And so they'll give some information about their experiences. And then for those of you that registered to stay after, we have 4 recruiters that will be working with you one-on-one to provide a resume consultation. So without any further ado, let me introduce our first speakers. We have Chuck Curdy and Asma Sharif. Chuck is the Director of HR Recruitment at the Radcliffe Institute, and Asma recently joined his team as the Associate Director. And Chuck has a long history at Harvard. He worked in the School of Public Health, and then he's been in higher education administration, and now is at the Radcliffe Institute. And Asma has joined us at Harvard from the corporate sector, where she had various roles in HR. So she brings that perspective as well. So welcome, Chuck and Asma.
Welcome. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. It means a great deal to Asma and I to have the opportunity to help you in your career search as you seek to obtain an administrative position at Harvard. Like all of you, not all that long ago, Asma and I were in the same position that you were in. We were looking at our resume, looking at our cover letter, sending it to friends who were telling us about, oh, you've got a comma here, you need a semicolon here, you've changed your subject verb tense disagreement, and all of the fun stuff, the joys of being a job seeker. Being a job seeker can sometimes feel like you are standing under Niagara Falls and someone has hit the start button. We are here today with Elizabeth and Jennifer's expert guidance and assistance to help you try and navigate that stream. We're going to ask for your patience, your perseverance, and your persistence. The job search does take a period of time, no matter who you are. But we believe that you have tremendous assets, that all of you collectively and individually have knowledge, education, skills, and experience gained through paid positions as well as volunteer positions that make you a wonderful asset to Harvard University or to any employer whatsoever. And I'm just going to let Asma introduce herself for a moment.
Yeah, hello, good morning. As Elizabeth said, I'm very new to Harvard. This is my very first job, so it wasn't as if I had been working in another school or had been engaged in some type of a student capacity or anything of the kind. So I'm here today, and this is also an adjustment period for me to see everything that goes on at Harvard. And in addition to that, if you'd like to talk to me or have any questions, that I can answer for you, how my experience was coming from external, from outside of Harvard, and working here, I'd be happy to answer any question, any information, any best practices or things like that, during the question and answer session. So thank you.
One thing from my partner in crime, when she said this was her first job, she meant in higher education.
Yes, higher education.
So let's begin. So the agenda is very quickly some Harvard facts, jobs at Harvard, how to apply for a job, resumes, cover letters. I'm not going to read all of these slides to you. I'm sure you've all been reading on your own since you were 25. But in addition to what's printed on this, Asma and I will give you some ad hoc thoughts, ideas for suggestions, not only about being a job seeker, which is just like being a student. It's, you know, it's a skill, or, you know, playing the piano or a musical instrument, but how you can make the system work better and more easily for you. Some quick Harvard facts. Founded in 1636, oldest institute of higher education in America. Go Harvard. Over 18,000 students. We are the 5th largest employer in Massachusetts. We're very proud that our president, Drew Gilpin Faust, previous to being president of Harvard, was the dean of the Radcliffe Institute. Go President Faust. Our school color is crimson, or as we call it on our side of the yard, Radcliffe Red. And President Faust has been president since 2007. Thank you. Next slide. You can't walk through Harvard Yard without bumping into a Nobel laureate. It's just not possible. For those of us who studied Latin declensions in grammar school, Veritas is our motto, and we have the world's largest library system. That's a lot of Kindle reading. And we have 12 colleges and 1 institute for advanced study. Next. So who works at Radcliffe? Who works at Harvard? Who works at the law school? Who works at the medical school? Who works at the business school? The more appropriate question, who doesn't work for Harvard? We have doctors, lawyers, accountants, veterinarians, school teachers. We have computer technicians, lots of computer technicians, thank heavens, researchers, people in finance, people in investment, people who are in administrative positions. Nearly every possible administrative role that you can think of, or that you have held at some point in your career or would like to, is represented somewhere at the university. So the most important thing for you to know coming out of this is Asma and I want to share information with you about Aspire. Aspire is the university's online recruitment system, and you have to be registered in Aspire and use the Aspire system in order for your resume to be received by the hiring department and reviewed by a recruiter and a hiring manager. And if our time permits, we'll actually go to the Harvard website and sort of walk you through it. But one of the reasons why Asma and I printed this guide out for you, and it wasn't not to be green because we're very successful about being green, but sometimes going through an online application system can be a little bit confusing. Use this when you go online to create your account and submit your resume. It teaches you how to navigate the system. It will answer a lot of questions for you, as well as give you some shortcut suggestions that can make the application process smoother. It's a great resource. The web address has recently changed. It's employment at harvard.edu. And like any online job application program, new jobs are posted every day. So when people say to me, well, you know, I checked the job at Harvard, I checked your website, I didn't see anything that was of interest to me, and I said, well, when did you check it? Oh, I checked it, you know, back at the end of August. Have you checked it since? Well, no, maybe I'll wait a couple of weeks. If you are active in your search, I really do encourage you, if you're not going to do it every day, at least do it every other day. It's very important. And I hope we do have time so I can show you a little bit of the website. Next slide. So when I show you the Aspire site, you can search by school, you can search by salary grade, you can search by dates posted, you can search by job function. I'm looking for a job in accounting. I'm looking for a job in development. I'm looking for a job in communications. I'm looking for a job in facilities management. So, or, you know, I've always wanted to work for Harvard Law School. I've always wanted to work for Harvard Business School. You will see quite frequently in jobs, this is a 1-year funded position, this is a 3-year funded position, this is a 2-year funded position with the possibility of renewal. Nearly all of those jobs are grant-funded jobs, and when the grant ends, the position ends. So they want to communicate very clearly to an applicant what the status of the position is. You can also see a large number of part-time positions. If you don't want to work full-time, and many people don't, they just want part-time positions, there's a large number of part-time positions for you. As I mentioned, to be an official candidate, you have to upload your cover letter and resume through Aspire. Please do it in one document and do it as a Word document, not an Adobe PDF. We ask that you put your resume first and then your cover letter behind it, and that it's one document saved as a Word document and uploaded it. You can change it. You can upload additional documents as you apply for different jobs. And we always ask that you customize your cover letter for the position that you're applying for. Aspire is a very fine online applicant tracking system. It does a very good job for both the applicant and the recruiter. When you apply for a position, you should get an electronic acknowledgement to your email account. Resumes can either go directly to a hiring manager or they can go to a recruiter. And each of the 12 schools in the Radcliffe Institute manage recruitment differently. Different schools, in some schools, recruiters screen everyone first. In other schools, the hiring manager screens every resume. So it's going to be a little bit different by the school. And please, if you don't have an email account, there's Yahoo, there's Gmail, please get one. It will make your life considerably easier. Next. So lots of people have different opinions about how many positions they should apply for. And Asma and I strongly believe that if you see a position that strongly interests you and you have the qualifications, apply for it. Now, you don't want to be in a position where you're applying for 60 or 80 positions and you're just applying for every position that's there under the sun. But you do want to give yourself as many opportunities as possible. And that's one of the many terrific things about Harvard, is it does give us so many opportunities. Read the position description very carefully so you know what the job is asking for, both in terms of tasks that you would be doing if you were hired into it, as well as the qualifications of the job. Asma and I both look very carefully at people's cover letters. And we really look for people who will tell us in a cover letter, I want this job at your school for these reasons. What you're asking for, I've either done or have a strong interest in. And then we both always look very carefully, why do you want to come to Radcliffe? And we can't even tell you the number of times we read cover letters that say, dot, 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 and I really want to work at MIT. I really want to work for State Street. I really am interested in this job at Harvard Medical School. And we're like, oh. So, hiring processes do take some period of time. That's why I said patience, persistence, and perseverance. There's always the perennial questions. I applied, how long should I wait for follow-up? That's really going to be different from each position and from school to school. But I would say after 3 weeks, there's nothing wrong with your reaching out to follow up. Next. Networking. I cannot tell you the number of times in my career that I have hired people on the basis of networked referrals, or the number of times I have been hired because I knew someone on the inside and asked them to take my resume forward. It can be very effective to have someone be your ambassador. But also, if you look at or do any research on the individuals who are most successful in a corporation, they're the individuals who are hired through a referral by a current employee. People apply because they see a job advertised on a website or in the Chronicle of Higher Education or in the New York Times or the Boston Globe. But people also apply because My friend who works in the finance department at Harvard Law School told me about this position. People who come as a referral through a current employee have the highest success rates. There are a number of events, dozens of them, every week at Harvard. And if you go to the Harvard Gazette, it's a great resource. And you are going to have to be the ambassador for yourself. You're going to have to be proactive and show the initiative, and we strongly encourage you to go to these events, reach out, meet people, shake hands, introduce yourself, and please say, I'm seeking a position. Is there one in your school, or is there one potentially coming up? Because a lot of times people will know, you know, there isn't anything now, but we are getting a grant that's going to start in January. So we'd be posting the position in November or December, you know, and it's great to be able to have the contact. Next. The other thing I would ask is temporary help agencies are a great way to get positions. Randstad is the employer temporary help agency, staffing agency that is the Harvard preferred vendor. And we have hired at Radcliffe multiple people who've come to us in temporary positions into Radcliffe. We've also referred them for other positions at the university because they've been so successful in their temporary jobs. Resumes. So this is where I'm not going to spend a great deal of time because the women and men in the next panel are going to be spending a great deal of time. But I will just share with you very quickly some of my suggestions for you, which is when you write your resume, if you're a little bit concerned about it or nervous or anxious, go to a bookstore. Go to the career section. Take one of those resume books off the shelf and flip through it. And as you read through the resumes in the book, you'll get a sense of the writing style and the tone and the tense of how people use resumes. It's a great informal resource way to get a little bit more accustomed to how people phrase resumes. Please don't ever copy and paste from a job description that you had. We see resumes all the time, and we can tell all the person did was copy their job responsibilities from their formal job description. And what Asma and I say to the candidate, okay, you were responsible for doing the budgets. Did you do the budgets? Did you do them well? Did you do them on time? Were they more efficient after you did it? What I always encourage people to do is instead of just saying experience, call it achievements and experience. Tell us a story. Tell us what you achieved. I was responsible for the budgets in my job, and I streamlined it. I collaborated with other departments. I got it done faster. We were within our targets because we put more analysis into it. Tell us a bit of a narrative about your achievements. Take the time to tell us that information. Don't be afraid that you're going to make your resume too long. If you give us solid information about what you've done, be proud of it. Also a key note about applying for a job in Massachusetts. Volunteer experience counts as the equivalent of professional experience. So if you have volunteer experience, I was on a board of directors. I organized a fundraiser that raised half of the organization's annual budget. Give yourself that credit. The fact that it wasn't paid doesn't detract from its value. A winning resume answers questions. What are you seeking? Why are you seeking this job? Tell us about yourself. You have to convey a cogent, articulate story about why this job at this school at this time. And again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because the resume panel will do it. But this is the final point that I'd like you to really focus on. There isn't one person in this room who doesn't have unique skills and talents or unique skills and experiences. Your unique experiences and skills and talents and abilities are the added value that you bring to Harvard and any employer that you will ever work for in your lives. Be proud of it. Tell us about it. You're not bragging when you tell us about it. You're conveying the truth. And it makes you more pronounced and more prominent as an applicant. I have to tell you, it is heartbreaking when you read a resume that the person really has a lot of achievements, and the resume and cover letter are loaded with spelling errors, typographical errors, wrong dates, bad grammar. I mean, one person graduated from, I'm not going to name the school, but graduated from the school, and they obviously meant to say 2008. Instead, they said 1808, which certainly would have been a unique experience for them. So those are the things that you want to avoid. It is frequently very hard to edit your own work. So please don't hesitate to ask a friend or someone you know and say, can you just look at this quickly just to make sure that I didn't, leave a verb or a subject out of a sentence, or leave the dates off, or, your friend says, didn't you work at so-and-so for 4 years and you forgot to mention it? The past 10 years, focus on the most. Please tell us where you went to school and where you graduated, and if you had honors, please make us aware of it. I put this in, but there's really a bit of a debate about this. People say that ideally one-page resumes are the best. I know a lot of recruiters prefer one-page resumes. I actually will read a 10-page resume. If you're going to tell me a story, I'm going to read it. I find that interesting. If you need 2 pages to capture your experience, take the 2 pages. Take the time to convey all of the information about you that really deserves to be heard by a recruiter and a hiring manager. The top 1/3 of the first page is the most critical space. That's where you'd want to put your summary statement or your objective statement, which I think are always very important. I am seeking this position, or I am seeking a position in accounting or communications because, and specifically at your school, and make that 3 or 4 statements. It's a synopsis. And it really synthesizes why you want this position at my school for these short reasons. You're not repeating what you're going to say in your resume, but you're just synthesizing it into one summary paragraph. Most important point, make sure that your letter is customized for each job that you apply for. You can start it out with the date, Human Resources Department, Radcliffe Institute, 10 Garden Street, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dear Hiring Officer, Dear Search Committee. Please make it exactly as if it were a business letter. Don't just start your cover letter with no salutation or introduction. I mean, sometimes you get a cover letter from these people with amazing achievements and it's just this word wall, and it doesn't really show a lot of reflection. Make sure you speak from your own voice when you write the cover letter. Sometimes people go and have professionals write cover letters and resumes for them. They can be great technical assistants, but make sure you edit it and customize it and it's really coming from your own voice, because that will be the most powerful and the most persuasion. And do not hesitate to say, I really would welcome the opportunity to meet with you and talk to you about my skills and abilities. Don't do a cursory review of the job description before you apply. Really read the job description carefully, read the tasks, read the qualifications, read the request for additional information. Because sometimes, if you don't go all the way to the bottom of the page, you will get tripped up. Because we've had applicants come in and we've said during the interview, well, this is a 2-year grant-funded position, and the candidate says, what? Where? That wasn't in the job ad. And it's like, yeah, under additional information it was. And that's sort of an embarrassing situation, and you never want to be caught off guard. Each job at Harvard in Aspire, it will say what the salary grade is. And on Aspire, on the website, the Human Resources website, it shows the salary grades. Know that what your salary expectations or salary requirements are. Because if you go and say, you know, my salary requirement is X, and you're in a job where the maximum is Y, that's going to be a big disconnect, and it will not have been efficient use of your time. These, I'll let you read on your own. These are the standard things that I would say are the rules of the road for anyone applying for a job. Dress professionally, be on time, be enthusiastic, show some enthusiasm. Please don't ever say to a recruiter or hiring manager, you know, I'm not sure I really want this job, but you know, it was sort of interesting and I really just wanted to come and interview. You know, it's like, thank you. So, behavioral interviews. Behavioral interviews are where the recruiter will say to an applicant, assume you're hired into the job and you're now 6 months into the job and this situation occurs and it's your task to do X, Y, and Z. What actions are you going to take to have a positive outcome? It's almost as if you're making a case study up with the recruiter. So be prepared to answer those types of questions as opposed to just the standard traditional, give me your background, what have you done previously, tell me why this position is of interest. The recruiter might say, okay, you're in the accounting department and you get a call from central finance that your budget numbers are off. And you know that you've loaded them correctly and you've audited them twice in Excel before you submitted them. And you're like, did the system fail? Did I upload the wrong file? So it's really a scenario of what you would do and what your response would be. On behalf of Elizabeth, Jennifer, Harvard Human Resources, President FAS, Dean Elizabeth Cohn, thank you. Harvard can't work if people with your knowledge, skills, and abilities don't apply for jobs and come to work here. We wouldn't be able to educate our students. We wouldn't be able to conduct research. We wouldn't be able to conduct research on the medical advances that are saving lives throughout the world. And we wouldn't have the ongoing achievements that all of you will bring to us. So we wish you every success in your career. And one final note, whenever you leave an interview, even if the interview is over the telephone, it's a phone screen, ask for the recruiter or the hiring manager's name, title, and email address. Send a thank you note. It doesn't have to be handwritten. It can be email. Email is fine. But always follow up with a thank you note. And always in the thank you note, if you want to pursue the position, say, I'm actually now more interested, I am actually now more interested in the position based upon my conversation with you. Conversely, after speaking with the hiring manager or the recruiter, you've decided, you know, I don't think this is where I want to go. Say that. That's okay. We respect that. You know, I've given it thought. I really appreciate the interest that you've shown in me. I've decided to go in a different direction, but I really appreciate your consideration. That's fine, and that's really appreciated by recruiters and hiring managers. And this is very important. Whenever I do these sessions, Asma and I leave them and we say, okay, what are these people going to do an hour from now when they walk out the door? How are they going to reach out? How are they going to follow up? Who's going to answer questions if they're in need? Jennifer Ivers and Elizabeth and Karana are here for you today and in the future. I know that after I printed these slides out and I was looking at them on a piece of paper, I either decided I needed longer arms or better glasses to read them. So if the email addresses or phone numbers are too faint to read, please write them down now. Okay, so how many people have been to the Aspire website? Oh, nearly everyone, great. So when you come to .harvard.edu, under Resources and Offices, go down to Employment. The university just redesigned this website and they did a terrific job And there's lots of information about working for the university, about learning and development opportunities, about salary, and Harvard has the most amazing benefits of any employer I have ever worked for in my career. Under search jobs, it will tell you a little bit about being an external candidate. So here's where I really wanted to take you. When you come to the Aspire website, it's really important to create a login and to create an account within Aspire. Your email address will always be your account name, your password. But once you do that and go into the system, it will ask you to set up a profile. And then you will be able to search openings. And this is where, if you haven't seen this yet, you can search for and say, I really want a job in the Harvard Library system. Any job posted after January 2014. And all current 12 jobs are listed. They're listed, and you can sort by grade order. You can sort by school or unit, date posted, or full-time or part-time. Similarly, let's say you've always wanted to work for the medical school. You can see every job that's been at the medical school, which is a very large number. The more you spend on this website, think of this almost as a Google search or a Boolean search. The more time you spend on this website, the more you will become comfortable with it. That handout is really great. It's very well written. It's got a lot of information, but it really will guide you through the steps and the tips of how to make this system work for you. You can do keyword searches to find jobs. Again, this updates every day. You can get an RSS feed, and it's the best way. And let's say what I really want to be when I grow up is a staff assistant. And it can tell me that it's Monday through Friday. It's in the Center for Bioethics. It is full-time, which I'm seeking, and all of the information. I can save this to my job cart. I can post it to my social networks. I can link this to my LinkedIn account. I can email it to a friend I know, or I can go and apply for it myself. And again, the application process goes through this. Any questions about this? Okay, yes. Sure. Yes, I understand. Okay, so I think a better way for me to do that, and I want to get through this as quickly as possible so I can answer your questions, and Asma as well. So the university has what's called business titles, like coordinator to staff assistant. And then sometimes they have job-specific titles that each school or department may call the position. So you may see staff assistant, executive assistant, administrative coordinator, department director, these very generic sounding job titles. Those are job titles that the university has assigned to roles. But when you click open the position, there may be a more customized job title and role. But look at the title, but also check the grade, having gone in and checked with the salary grade. Yes?
So I have a question on grade salary. What about part-time jobs? One should assume that the grade salary is half?
It would be prorated. The standard work hour for a job at Harvard full-time, in some schools it's 35 hours a week, in other schools it's 40 hours a week. You must work 17.5 hours a week at the university to qualify for benefits. So anything above that is a benefits eligible position. So let's say the job is that school, it's a 35-hour week is full-time, and it's 17.5 hours. You could project that the salary would be 50%. if it was 21 hours or 28 hours, it would be whatever that prorated percentage is. Have I answered that question? Okay, Asma, do you want to come up and we'll do some fast Q&A because I want to make sure we can answer everything that we can for you. Could you speak up just a little bit?
When you apply for a job and you're uploading your resume, cover letter, and you're telling us the customer message job, this is a per job
Correct.
upload? There's not a database we're referring to that we're pulling from?
No, it's per job. You're applying for each job individually. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. How often do you use Aspire to find job applicants?
She and I are in it
Every
2 to 3
single day.
times every day.
Is it the main source for
Yes.
you?
It is. It's
Yes.
the only source. Yeah. I mean, we have referrals. We do email blasts for jobs. We do a lot of things. But every person must go through Aspire. And
Yeah.
I start at 7 in the morning, and Asma goes on at around 10:30, and then
We
I
go
go
through
on
it
at
7
1.
times a day, every
Then
day.
she goes on at 3, and then, you know, one of us does it at 5. So between the two of us, we're on 5 to 6 times a day. Yes, ma'am.
Even if you're using a headhunter service or an outside recruiter service to find, like say, a higher level job, that job would still be posted in
Must be
Aspire?
posted.
Okay, so that is an inroad for people who may not know of other paths that you all are taking.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a preference in terms of standard CV versus LinkedIn profile?
The only thing that I would say is sometimes when the LinkedIn profile comes over, the formatting is a little off, and so it just looks a little crooked sometimes. But either way is fine. I mean, you're really looking for the data. Yes, ma'am.
What are the main differences between a CV and a resume? We have a CV, use it?
Absolutely. You know, some people use a curriculum vitae because they have extensive academic experience, whereas people like me in administrative positions have a resume. Either one is fine. Any recruiter at Harvard is used to reading either one. If we didn't, we shouldn't be working here. Yes.
Tease out the difference between basic qualifications and additional desired qualifications.
Yep. Basic qualifications, you know, that's the absolute minimum, you know, that's required for anyone to be able to do that particular job proficiently. Additional qualifications are something that, you know, you may not have it, but when you are in the role, you can always, you know, learn how to, you know, have those skills in order for you to get to a little bit of a higher level of, you know, proficiency in the job. So when you do not meet the basic qualifications, that's when, you know, your resume would not be you know, shortlisted for, you know, to go in further into the hiring process. Additional qualifications are, it's like a wish list, you know, if it's there, great, but if not, you know, but if everything else meets, you know, you would be considered, you know, for that particular position. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
Would you say it's important for an applicant to know the Harvard systems in terms of, you know, how, let's just say, if you get somebody who wants to be in accounts, you know, to know how the accounting system works, you know, which is probably particular just to Harvard, and, you know, the same thing which applies to other roles as well? Or is it, if it's an outside applicant, you know, is it something that you expect them to learn on the job, or?
In the event that knowledge of a Harvard system is absolutely mandatory, which is very rare. I don't even think I've seen it in all the years that I've been at Harvard. That would be listed under the basic qualifications. You will see knowledge of advanced or Harvard accounting system preferred, but the Harvard systems are very proficient, and they're all learnable for outside applicants, and everyone was an outside applicant at some point.
Yeah, but what would be required in that situation, for instance, is, you know, your ability to learn systems, you know, fairly quickly, you know, and what kind of, you know, other related systems, you know, that you have worked on and things like that. But if you're completely not savvy using a system, and let's say, you know, you're an accountant but used to a very traditional way of journal entries by way of books, then that may not, you know, take you further into the hiring process. Yeah?
Susan?
So I meet 9 out of 10 basic requirements. Should I not apply?
Apply. And you know, I'm really pleased you asked that question, because this does get into a gender issue. So, a job description has 100 requirements, and a man reads it, And he says, well, I can do 3 and I'll learn the other 97. What the heck, I'm applying. A woman sees the same 100 requirements and says, you know, I only know 98 out of 100, I'm not applying. Please apply. Please, please, please apply. Thank you. Yes.
So once in a while, you see in the listing that they have a specific internal candidate line.
Yes.
Do you still recommend apply for that position, or it's pretty much set and then they have to go?
What she is referring to is you'll see sometimes in job listings what's called SIC, Strong Internal Candidate. I actually encourage people to apply because of 2 reasons. Number one, they'll review your resume, and I've hired people who applied for a job a year ago, and we hired another person, but another job came open and we went back to that pool. I also have hired people who applied for jobs at other schools, but when we were posting a job, we sent out an email blast to people who applied for jobs in other schools, similar jobs in other schools over the past year. And sometimes the internal candidate doesn't take the job, or the internal candidate takes another position. So there's nothing lost. Yes?
Chuck, could you talk a little bit about informational interviewing?
Yes. The university has a great system, both at the business school and at the university, where they give information on job seeking and seeking jobs at Harvard. It's not unlike the session that you're going to go through today. One of the things that Elizabeth is referring to is you can reach out to someone and say, you know, my name is, and I'm very interested in a position in your school. You don't have a position that I'm seeking right now posted, but could I possibly come and meet with you for 30 or 45 minutes as what's called an informational interview? Could you tell me about your school? And I would love to present to you my skills, my qualifications. An informational interview is when you're meeting with a recruiter or a potential hiring manager, and in fact there isn't a job at the moment that you're seeking or applying for. And that's why it's called informational. But it's great because you will have shared them your CV or your resume. They will have shared with you their business card, and you will have a network and a contact. And we have referred people and said, you know, you're looking for a job in accounting or finance. We don't have a job open here at Radcliffe right now, but the medical school does. And 3 years ago, someone who came for an informational interview at Radcliffe in accounting. We didn't have a position open. 2 weeks later, one of my friends at the medical school called up and said, I'm posting a job if you know someone. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do. And I emailed her with the applicant's permission, the applicant's resume. She called the applicant. The applicant didn't even know about the job. She applied for the job and got it, and she's been promoted since. Of course, my favorite story is when I told a friend about a job at one company and he got the name of the company wrong and applied to the wrong company for a job and got it. So you never know how it's going to turn out. He called up and said, I got the job. I said, that's great. He said, and I started, and it's on 22nd Street. I said, no, it's at 810 7th Avenue. He said, no, 22nd Street. I said, who did you apply for? I said, that's the New York City office, not the national office. He said, I got the job. So thank you so much. I mean, Asma and I appreciated having the opportunity to meet with you. It's challenging, it's scary, it's exhilarating, and we wish you all success. I know you're going to be successful. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to also mention something we talked about the other day. In a couple of weeks, if you would like to send us your resumes, and you could send it to, we'll make sure we get an email out to remind you. We're happy to circulate the resumes amongst the HR recruiters that have their own very robust network of communications. And then the last thing I want to mention, you all have, or over on the table, there's a postcard for the New England Higher Education Recruitment Consortium, the Herk. How many of you are familiar with Herk? This is another really helpful resource to augment your job search at Harvard. The New England Herk has 70 colleges and universities as part of its membership base. And as members, they post all of their open positions on the New England Herk website. On any given day, there are about 3,000 open positions posted, 2,000 of which are administrative jobs in all those areas that Chuck was talking about in the beginning, and about 1,000 are academic or faculty positions. So it's an excellent resource. And just because we have a minute or two, I'm going to pull up the website so you can see it. I'm not spelling that right. Okay, so here's the website. You can search, you can put in a keyword search, you could do advanced searches, but a really helpful tool is you can register yourself for free on the New England Herk website. And what that allows is you will receive email alerts as jobs become open that match your search criteria. So you don't have to go into the system all the time. The jobs are automatically emailed to you. And there are also, on this website, there are a lot of job seeker tools that will help you in your job search. There are diversity resources, dual career, relocation, there's a job seeker blog, et cetera. So this is just another tool for you, another resource that we find is very helpful for our dual career job seekers. So any questions on Herk? Or anything else? All right, well, I think we'll take about a 10-minute break, and then our next panel of dual career folks that are in administrative positions at Harvard will be speaking to us. So thanks, everybody.